Phoenix Down Radio is on the air.
Welcome everybody to Phoenix Down Radio, episode number 175. I'm your host, Klaus Nightbringer. Joining me, as always, is our co-host, Seyrr Timono. Seyrr, how are you doing today, sir?
Hey, holding up all right. Actually managed reasonable amounts of sleep, so not brain fogged for once. Life is pretty decent.
Is that where you're a Viking?
I mean, I don't appreciate the comparison to Ralph Wiggum, but I do appreciate the going for the Simpsons quote.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of a mixed feelings right now.
But yeah,
it's much like how Homer didn't like Bob's Bart killing policies, but did approve of his Selma killing policies. Yeah, I will go for the deep cuts. Don't try me.
No, we won't try you. Well, maybe we will, just to see what we can get. But it is what it is. We are back for another fun-filled episode, hopefully. What have you been up to other than sleeping the last 2 weeks?
I mean, still unpacking and moving stuff in. The living room is starting to approach usable, so that's really nice. Some of the new content, of course. I've got Dragoon and Reaper up to 87 now, so I'm not too far from all of the strength jobs being 90.
Okay.
I actually ended up working out way better than I expected. I did a data processing project to help out with some stuff, and then was like, hey, I noticed a bunch of patterns in this and made a bunch of spreadsheets, and I am apparently now going to be doing a presentation to the division managers about, hey, here are some changes you should make.
Well, as long as they take it the way it's intended, that should be kind of cool.
At least one of the division managers knows of my tendency to rant and actually likes it. So this is probably going to be okay. Probably.
We'll be pulling for you on that. But
I have a known weird quantity, and they're apparently okay with that.
You're kind of forgetting something else that you were telling me before the show today about something that you did to get that you're going to be doing to make your house nicer.
Right.
And then forced me to do the same thing.
I didn't force you to do anything.
You totally did. Just kidding. You didn't. But.
So, my aunt and my cousins sent some mail. Like, they sent some postcards and letters because it's so nice to get mail when you've moved into a new place. Mm-hmm. Three of them that all arrived on the same day, even though they were not able to coordinate that, given that they're in completely different parts of the country. So nice coincidence on that. And my aunt included a check that she said was specifically for buying decorations. And so I bought a bunch of cool ukiyo-e posters. I feel like I'm going to go ahead and it's
already did.
God. Oh, thank you.
Well, I mean, the fact that I also dropped a couple $100 on art prints there as well. Because there's some actually beautiful looking art based off of some video game stuff, and just a lot of meme culture as well. It's really nice, and I recommend it.
Ukiyo-e is the name for a traditional Japanese art style. If you've ever seen stuff like that famous one of the giant wave or things like that, it's a kind of traditional one from a few centuries back, and the artist here does a lot of modern properties and things in that old style on traditionally made Japanese paper. So when you buy the stuff, you're actually also supporting traditional crafts. Yeah, a friend of mine recommended it since he used it for his decoration. I found a batch of stuff that would work in my place, and then I told Klaus about it, and Klaus spent money he wasn't expecting to.
Yeah, well, they had some really nice Final Fantasy based ones that I had to pick up, including a nice triptych with Kefka and the FF6 characters. I mean, it was really nice, and I'm looking forward to putting it up in my place. But it's funny you mentioned I actually have a poster. At some point,
the wall behind me may have the one of Sabin suplexing the train.
Yeah, I got that one too.
Tradition.
And then there's one of Terra in a kind of a Edo period style Magitech piece that she's writing in, and then Cloud and Sephiroth in battle. More traditional Japanese style, but it's really cool looking. Yep. But funny you mentioned the that poster with the Boat on the Waves. I actually have that in my room as well. So
yeah, it's a good traditional one.
It is. It's very nice looking, and a lot of pieces are based off of that as well. So yeah, they're not a sponsor. Hashtag sponsor us, but definitely go check them out. There's a lot of really cool cultural stuff in there, and not terribly priced for quality Giclée art prints, and then some actual wood prints as well. So.
Oh yeah, the wood block stuff is really expensive, so that's more a thing for serious collectors, but it looks gorgeous.
Exactly. So yeah, I ended up getting some of that too. I also decided that I wanted to upgrade monitors, so I decided to purchase a pair of ultra wide 1440p monitors, and playing Final Fantasy in 21:9. It's quite interesting.
Yeah, are you able to see like more of the field? Does it actually expand your view, or how does that end up working?
A little bit. I mean, it expands it out. You got I suppose a couple more inches on either side to be able to see things, in your periphery. So it does.
Yeah, a couple inches makes a big difference.
I'm not gonna do it. I almost did it. I almost did it, but I'm not gonna do it. I'm gonna be a good boy today.
Oh.
Anyway,
good times.
Aside from also, being a little bit of a, spending some money and things like that, been doing a lot of work. Been prepping up for 2 weeks from now, which is going to be not only episode 176, but it will also be Extra Life 2022 Game Day. We're going to be starting here at twitch.tv/PhoenixDown live at 12 noon Central Time. And we're going to go for about 12 plus hours, depending on how well everything goes. If we can beat our goal, there's a good chance we'll continue going on for a little while longer and things like that. So look forward to some games, fun, prizes, and surprises. And just a good time. So you'll be able to support a wonderful charity. I strongly recommend, stopping by, checking it out. And if you have a few extra dollars to donate, it'd be greatly appreciated. So thank you much. And let's go ahead and thank our Patreon producers, Nick Nar, Aurori, Tibiant, Ravenheart, and Mika. Let's go ahead and jump into gaming community news. Final Fantasy VII, The First Soldier, the mobile shooter game, has already announced that they're ending service less than a year after its release. This comes from GameInformer.com, and this article is written by Marcus Stewart, so thank you so much for that. It's been announced that... let's bring the article up for me as well so I can read it a little bit. The game will be ending service completely in January, though any of the non-English translations will be going down in November. I believe it's November 1st. The support for non-English localization will end, meaning text will only be displayed in English moving forward, and then on January 11th, the First Soldier goes offline for good. Sarah, did you ever play this?
I never did, honestly. I was going to say, usually there's at least a little bit of lag time in terms of which translations have been done and which ones they're working on, so it's probably more of a, we're not bothering with anymore, so smoke at what you've got.
Yep. From a tweet, this is what they said: "It is with a heavy heart that we are announcing the end of service for Final Fantasy VII: The First Soldier. We'll be ending service at 7 p.m. UTC on January 11th, 2023. Despite all our efforts to bring you regular updates with fresh and exciting content, we haven't been able to deliver the experience that we were hoping to and that you'd all deserve, so we've made the extremely tough decision to end service for Final Fantasy VII: The First Soldier. We'd like to thank you all for supporting us over the past year. Although there is only a little less than 3 months until service ends, we will continue to make updates during this time, so we hope you'll continue to enjoy Final Fantasy VII: The First Soldier until the very end."
It's always a little sad for something like this. Just like these games live and die by how much successful they are financially. And so if something doesn't catch on right away, it doesn't get a second chance if it's not profitable.
Yep, and Square Enix is known, they do make quite a few popular and profitable mobile games. Look at Defu, Record Keeper,
Not anymore on Record Keeper.
Record
That's
Keeper's
at
gone.
end of
Yeah,
service.
it's gone. Yeah, it's gone. What other ones have been really good though?
I think Brave Exvius is still holding
Brave
strong.
Exvius and then War of the Visions, I believe, are still going strong. But I mean, Record Keeper was around for a very long time and did make a good chunk of money. I know you spent a few bucks on gems, didn't you?
Let's not talk about that right now.
Not as much as you spent into Foo, but I'm trying to think. I think the only one I ever spent some money on was Mobius.
Yeah.
I mean, because it was a kind of a card-based game, and that's one I kind of miss.
Yeah, and I mean, like, that's the thing for a lot of them. Like, Mobius, I really enjoyed. It had a really weird and kind of interesting and trippy story that now the only way you get to experience it is if you go find a YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
I'm actually reminded of, there was a thing I saw just the other day. What was it? It was a show, but there we are. It was the show Final Space. It was a science fiction show that was popular for a little while. And it was a thing where pretty much they've decided for tax reasons that they're going to just like make it not available anymore. Like they want to be able to write it off as a loss.
Yeah.
And so as a direct result of that, they take it down from all of the various like online platforms. Like, you don't own it, you own a license to it. They've revoked the license because in order to write it off as a loss, they have to make it so they can't get any more money from it. So they're like, okay, we're taking this as a loss and deduct it on taxes. And that means that pretty much unless someone happens to have some videotapes of it somewhere, which I think it had a very small DVD run that I think is out of print at this point, it's effectively lost to the world.
And that's sad, especially in this day and age when everything has been digitized and is available on the internet for an eternity type of thing. But
I mean, that's the thing. You think of it as available for an eternity, but if you are not being very careful about your preparations, like, something just goes away and you can't get it back. Yeah. And even if you make an archive, if that archive ends up going down for whatever reason.
Yep. So you do have to be very careful with things like that, as well as, you know, that's been my biggest gripe about everything going digital. It is very convenient for, you know, being able to access it, you know, when it is available, but when those services go down.
I like it when people own their works. The doctrine of first sale is important. Yeah. But going back to the Final Fantasy one, although I was not super interested in the gameplay, given that it was part of the whole Final Fantasy VII universe, that they've continued to expand on, develop that story, I'm sure there were lots of little interesting tidbits and stories and just little things to enjoy in that. Again, pretty much the only way you can is if someone went ahead and made a YouTube video and uploaded it, and who knows how long that'll be available.
Though Chili did say in chat that Ever Crisis is going to have some of the First Soldier content available in it. So some of the story beats and lore from it is going to be available potentially.
And I think he's saying that it was going to have. It sounds like more like there might have been like a crossover-ish type thing or something like that. I'm not sure.
Well, we'll have to see what that actually means.
We are attempting to parse Chili's statements when Chili is right there.
Yep, he has no idea. We'll have to figure it out.
Well then, back to speculating.
Speculating is fun. Speaking of more Final Fantasy VII content, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth could deviate even more from its original timeline. And this article comes from GameSpot.com, written by Darren Bonthis. I hope I didn't butcher his name too badly. But reading into that a little bit, they talk about how 7 Remake ended on that big cliffhanger back in 2020 and kind of teased on an all-new timeline for Cloud and their party as they fought to change fate. This
article was highlighting the FF7 Remake blog that Square Enix has been running, where the co-director Motomu Toriyama, I feel like I'm butchering that first name, Motomu Toriyama was discussing and giving a bit of emphasis about how at the end of the first game, the Whispers are not going to be able to act to maintain the destined timeline. So fans can look forward to seeing what kind of future awaits the team. The fact that they're emphasizing this aspect does seem like they're going to lean a bit more into the timeline is going to diverge and we're going to have lots of these unexpected elements. Yeah. It was something where in the first bit of Remake, a lot of what we knew from the original game we could use as a guide to what to expect. and there was some amount of like, oh, hey, recognition of this bit. Oh, but it's been changed in this way. And it seems like our recollections are going to become less and less useful of a guide to predicting what's going to happen.
But I am still extremely excited for what the game brings. I mean,
yeah, 100%.
Turning it into a complete remake of the story, which is really nice. Basing it roughly off of, you know, what we had in the 1997 original for PlayStation. And God, 25 years ago. Can you believe that?
God, that's so weird. How the hell has it been? It doesn't feel that long.
We're old, Seyrr.
In the chat, Chili is suggesting his personal theory of a split timeline where you get to play as Zack instead of Cloud, and the main story going through Cloud as normal, and the final boss being kind of a fight against Sephiroth from two timelines at the same time. Kind of like the split party mechanic you had in the original FF7 in the Northern Crater, except instead of splitting along different paths, you actually have him being attacked from different timelines. Interesting idea.
That is quite interesting, you know, especially with the fact they're talking about, you know, the Crisis Core remaster is going to stay more true to the original PSP game, just with updated graphics akin to what is in the remake of Final Fantasy VII.
We did get that stinger that has Zack in it, also with suggestions that it is in a separate timeline from the one we saw in the majority of remakes. So the idea that we have multiple timelines all acting in concert is an interesting one that at the very least is not inconsistent with what we've already seen.
It's the FF7 CU multiverse.
Oh, no.
Let's see, we are 17 minutes in and we've already broken Seyrr.
Does the Final Fantasy cinematic universe include Spirits Within? How about that really old anime based off of FF5?
The Magun has thawed.
Oh, look, I'm all for cursed shit, but this is a bit much.
You love it and you know it, Seyrr. I'm really
I know.
really looking forward to what's coming up. I mean, this is a stacked next year for Final Fantasy, so it's going to be amazing. Continuing on, we got a little bit of Final Fantasy XIV news to talk about before we get into our discussion topic mainly on Final Fantasy XIV. But right now we have the All Saints Wake event live on the servers. Go check that out. It's actually a very cute story. Get some pretty neat glams. Get a new emote where you can eat pumpkin cookies, and you get a really cool housing item, like a wisp, a caged wisp.
Little lamp-like thing with that caged wisp there. Really cute. I'm amused that it's called the Wake Doctor, though I suppose they already used Plague Doctor for an armor set before.
Yeah, they actually did. It was a caster gear, I believe.
Yeah, it's the stuff you get in, I want to say, St. Mocion's Arboretum?
Something like that. But I still want the actual full, you know, did they have the Plague Doctor mask and everything with the big nose?
Yes, actually.
Okay, I'll have to get a copy of that, because I want that. I really want that.
Yes, the caster and healer ones have the Plague Doctor and Plague Bringer's mask with the long beak-like one of the traditional Plague Doctor mask.
Okay, yep, I will have to get that too, eventually. Which means running old content, but I can solo it at this point, so it's not that big of a deal. Speaking of other cool things that where you can look at pretty pictures of gear and stuff like that, the new art book. Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker, The Art of Resurrection Among the Stars is available. You can get it on Square Enix's website, or you can go out to Amazon and get it for $31. That's a really good deal. It includes a Ragnarok minion. Kind of neat. I've got that flying around me right now, just because I like to use the new minions when they first come out. Just give them a little love, you know?
They're cute. They're fun to show off.
Exactly. And those art books are just so nice. I really enjoy being able to see all of the concept art and some of the things that I might miss as I'm running through the story as Bard. I don't, you know, push too hard on every single job like Seyrr.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But we put a link to the Amazon store to purchase this book in the chat if you guys are interested.
They're the type of thing that makes a nice coffee table book.
Yep.
Like just having it set out, it makes a nice visual impact. It's fun to flip through. Even people who aren't necessarily as familiar with the series can appreciate the gorgeousness of some of the art. So I've been since I've been thinking about decorating a bit lately, I've been leaning a bit towards stuff that's either like kind of stealth or at least not overly in your face nerdy. And having those video game art books is one that's a really fun way to go about it.
Though, for full disclosure, the link posted in chat is actually an affiliate link, and will give Phoenix Storm Radio just a little bit of kickback. So if you want to purchase it using that, we would greatly appreciate it.
We want money, please. Everyone wants money, really, so I don't even know why I pointed that out as if it's weird, but...
All right. The next thing I'm posting in chat is a link to the newest Final Fantasy XVI trailer. 4.5 minutes of just gorgeous gameplay and cinematics, some really cool backstory, and goosebumps.
This one, the story elements seem to be focusing a bit more on the kind of Games of Thrones aspects of it, as people have been describing it, the different political and or geopolitical powers, the different nations, their ambitions. In fact, I believe the trailer is actually called Ambition.
It is indeed. But damn it, Seyrr, for stepping on my toes about the whole Game of Thrones bit, because I was also linking an article from Kotaku.com written by Ethan Gatch. Thank you so much, Ethan, for writing that article. They talk a little bit about some of the geopolitical that Seyrr was expounding on there, and how they're kind of showing each of the different countries or areas, factions, if you want to call them that.
I think factions is the right word here.
And how each one is kind of ruled by their own dominant or person who can control the icons that are prevalent in this world of Final Fantasy 16. It's really, really cool to see, more about the world and what the team at Creative Unit 3 have been working on for this game.
Yeah.
It's
some of those elements with the dominance are really striking. That one, the person who realized prior to, he is clearly calling the power of Titan, and the guy has this kind of visual callback to it. So,
and the fact
lots of stuff like that.
The game is going to have a little bit more mature elements in it. They show some a lot of blood and gore. And violent acts. There's a little bit of perceived nudity and a little bit of bow chicka wow wow potentially.
I mean, it seems reasonably clearly implied that those two are sleeping together.
Exactly.
I am not quite sure which gender one of them is presenting as, so we might also get our queer content in there. I'm not quite sure.
Who knows? But to expound upon this a little bit, Square.com also had an article talking about how Yoshida is saying that the development of Final Fantasy XVI is now in the home stretch and is on schedule for a summer 2023 release. They're saying right now that the storyline content is pretty much done. They are just tweaking things, making things look better, and just making sure everything is going to be smooth for that next summer release. And I
put those last layers of polish on it.
Really, 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 really want to play this game.
Yeah, the gameplay sequences that we saw briefly focused a lot on icon versus icon combat.
That battle system.
Quick-eyed viewers or viewers with a lot of time to go through with the pause button will be able to spot a lot of Final Fantasy mainstays among the icons. So
listed were Bahamut, Ifrit, Titan. You could see Garuda, Shiva. Odin was there as well, so there's a lot of things at stake in the world of Final Fantasy 16. So
yeah, it's although there are a lot of recurring ones, most games will have one or two that are unique to it that often add a little bit of special flavor. So I'm looking forward to seeing what unique ones we might get here.
Yeah, we'll have to see what types of things we may get with that. So thank you so much to Robert Ramsey for putting that article together on pushsquare.com. So that takes care of the news. let's go ahead and talk a little bit about patch 6.25. I'll go ahead and link the patch notes here for those who may want to go through and read them. Short, but a lot of good content.
Like, I am surprised that we have like 3 major things, and all of them are fairly story focused,
as well as written well.
Yeah, I mean, written well, I'm not surprised at, but like 3 different things that are all have a lot of good like lore and story content. So lots of meat in there for me to sink my teeth into.
What did you start with?
Oh, so I ended up starting with the Manderville Weapons, in part because when the servers went down, I had still been working on catching up the Manderville quests. So I was like, okay, well, I finished this one. I'm right there for the next one. The somehow further Manderville quests continue to... I mean, it depends on how you feel about Manderville stuff. I get a good laugh out of how ridiculous it is, so I continue to be satisfied with the ridiculousness of it.
I definitely enjoyed the slapstick humor involved with it. You know, the traveling, you know, back around different areas, Radzat Han and Garlemald finally to the moon. A lot of interesting things. I'm trying to think of what the reporter's name or who that were.
Delian.
Yeah, where he was a little bit of a disappointment to me personally, but I see where he fits in the story. He's just kind of like your normal tin hat kind of conspiracy theorist.
I mean, for a Manderville story, you pretty much have to have some person who's not part of the universe who stumbles into it and is like, what nonsense is going on here?
Problem is, nobody's going to know what nonsense is going on here unless you've been in it from the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, I'll agree that he didn't land quite as much. I think so. With this one, they went for kind of a conspiracy theorist, given that we had the travel to the moon, having something with like a person who has theories about aliens and all that fits in really, really well. It's a natural connection there. But that also meant that where you'd have normally your straight man type role is very confused and be like it didn't quite work when it's someone who is already looking for the weird and strange. And so it was less about being shocked that weird stuff is happening and more about misinterpreting what was going on. Yeah. So it changed up the dynamic a bit in a way that I wasn't quite as into, but a lot of the random silly stuff was there. The entire sequence with the face on the moon and the stuff that came out of it was so completely out of left field, and yet made so much. You know, like you see them embedded in there. It's like, of course, that is where they are going to crash into.
Yeah,
that is the only place they could have.
Yeah, go enjoy the content. It is very good. Like I said, there are a few parts that didn't hit quite as strongly for me, but overall, I thought it was a very well written bit of storyline that led greatly into the Manderville Weapons.
Yep. I'll also throw in that we do get another. One of the other things we see along the Manderville quest is a callback to like classic Final Fantasy thing, Gilgamesh, Yojimbo, and in this one, given the alien focus, we got to have a little bit of Final Fantasy VIII's alien invader, Poo Poo.
Yep.
And that was another fun. Yeah, that was another fun little one to see and have involved in there.
Yep. I still wonder if Gilgamesh is going to end up popping out of the little poo poo guy.
Probably not.
Well, I mean, you wouldn't have thought he would have come out of Yojimbo either, but that's a whole
Yojimbo is at least a plausible disguise.
You got to remember, Gilgamesh is a dimensional rift traveler. Maybe the poo-poo is bigger on the inside.
At this point, it feels like it would be gratuitous. It just doesn't feel like it would fit with what had already happened. That said, I wouldn't be surprised if they ended up bringing in Greg again some other way.
Yeah, hopefully.
Very difficult to get rid of that one.
Yeah, I mean, he's currently busy in Stranger of Paradise, but, he can come back to 14 anytime.
Yep. So yes, as you were saying, leading into the Manderville Weapons, which... pretty much as a rule, if Godbert has his shirt off, crazy Manderville shit is happening. If Godbert has his shirt on, then it's somewhat more normal fits into the general flow of the world kind of thing.
And it's probably going to lead into some crazy shit eventually with him taking his shirt off.
I mean, eventually, but good way to tell the difference there. And so we got some nice little interaction with Godbert in his more serious mode, talking about his desire to setting up the justification for the Manderville Weapons, which I know a lot of people are wondering, how are you even going to justify this? And the story goes into his seeing the importance of weapons as a way to defend the world, having focused on goldsmithing and a lot of this more ornamental stuff, but now seeing, given the threats to the world, he wants to do something that will kind of be able to help support and put this crafting knowledge to use.
Yep. And of course, you know, he has to bring in the most preeminent smith in all of Eorzea.
I mean, dude's got the money to bankroll it, and Geralt, who as always remains under thumb of Rowena is happy to take payments to apply them towards his massive, massive debt.
Which he keeps making even more by continuing to drink it away.
God, wasn't even in Thavner for one day before he spent all of his advance on booze.
It's also kind of funny how he's calling out Godbert for being shirtless and not wearing pants. I mean, at least Geralt wears pants. Got to give him that. I
mean, Geralt is working in the forge, like having like the burly smith who's like mostly shirtless or lightly on, in order to be able to withstand. That's like a fairly classic trope.
Mm-hmm. But still, it just kind of it was funny to see him call that out.
But yes. Lots of ridiculous stuff. The shirt does come off as Godbert prepares all sorts of unusual weaponsmithing materials. Again, I feel like attempting to describe it just won't do it justice.
It's not a long quest. In order to get your first weapon, it's a very simple process. Just requires 1,500 tomes of astronomy, I believe. So yeah, most people are able, either had that already or easily able to get that. So you can at least get a new weapon for your main or whatever else you're working on.
It's similar to the Save the Queen weapons. The first quest is mostly just introducing the idea, has a light thing in order to get you started on it, get people hyped, and to be able to get yourself, in this case, a I-615 weapon, so the equivalent of what you'd get from Barbaricia X. Reasonably good appearance on most of them. Nice clean lines. The Bard one is a harp type thing again, which I'm
a
never
little bummed
been
on
super.
That.
Yeah, it's a standard for Bard. I get it. It's not quite my thing, but I get it.
But it seems like the end weapon usually at that point is a regular, pretty nice looking bow. I mean, if you go back to like the Zodiac Braves weapon, we get the Yoichi bow. That's a pretty cool looking one. I'm hoping we get something similar.
Yeah, and you see similar in the Nanamo weapons, a lot of the other ones like that. So it's fine, especially since the different forms will be available as glamours. It makes sense to provide a lot of different styles for that.
Indeed. So yeah, go ahead and run that. You do have to get through the Somehow Further Hildebrand adventures before you can actually unlock your first Manderville weapon.
This is the one place where I will not judge you for skipping cutscenes. Manderville stuff is not everyone's taste.
Man, give it a try. Give it a try.
I love the slapstick. I do have one good friend who skips through pretty much all of it as fast as possible, and another one who will let cutscenes run for about 30 seconds. And most of them finish by that point, and the rest of the time it's about to go into some insanely batshit direction where most of it won't matter, and he can get the rest from context after. And it's like, that's fine.
I mean, if you give it a shot, it's understandable, but
Yeah, at this point, I feel like people have probably given Manderville stuff a shot, and they have a good idea of where they stand on it.
Yeah. For me, the next thing I jumped into was the Omicron Tribal quests. And Seyrr pointed out some really interesting things about the first couple of chapters of these quests, and wow, so it makes perfect sense. Seyrr, go ahead.
God, there's so much I want to say about it. Like, in any Final Fantasy game, you've got the cool adventure stuff, you've got the philosophical navel-gazing. This lands firmly on the philosophical navel-gazing side of it. So the quest center around the last dregs, the remains of the first civilization that Medion had visited, recreated in Ultima Thule, where Jammingway, one of the Loperites, has decided to establish a cafe. We of course had that as part of the side quests in earlier patches, and this is kind of continuing that story, where various dead races that Medion had encountered, distributed throughout the Thule and in the dead ends, are being recreated and brought into existence to serve as the cafe's customers.
That first set of customers, that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. The first set are the Corellians, which people who run the dead ends will remember as those of Ostracon Octo, the world ravaged by war between the global community and the freedom fighters. And the first Corellians that we encounter are, of course, immediately at each other's throats, not ready to put down the conflict that has been their defining thing through the end of their civilization.
Because, of course, they had to get one of each faction.
Yeah. I mean, you don't want just one customer.
Yeah.
There's lots of interesting little touches there. There's some, at various points through the quest, there's been some discussion about what it means or how we should think about the fact that these are races that have been recreated from Dynamis, and so what that means for their existence as people. Since the Ultima Thule is a place suffused with Dynamis and affected by the thoughts and dreams of the people there, or the entities there, I should say, the cafe's customers and their experiences with each other give rise to a new star named Elysian by the Loperites.
Mm-hmm.
We've already had a lot of references to Greek mythology and the afterlife. In Pandemonium, we had Asphodelos and Abyssos, and Elysian was another part of the afterlife that was effectively their equivalent of heaven.
Mm-hmm.
So we get to see that develop. For those who remember the Shadowbringers Pixie quests, where you were rebuilding and developing the Land of Dreams, we get a similar dynamic here, where Elysian continues to develop and build as we help the Loperites run their cafe. Jammingway and the Omicron. It's just the one Loperit.
Chili mentions that it was starting to actually coalesce in 6.2 and getting bigger and bigger throughout. I didn't spend any time in Ultima Thule really in 6.2, so I didn't actually pick that up. So good catch.
Yeah. So what he's referring to there is the various stars around the Thule that you can see all those remains of worlds, that there was one that was developing and coalescing through the patches. I honestly didn't notice that one as well. So yeah, very good catch there.
But it is really cool to see that, as we progress through the quest line, how it's changing Elysium, and it's really nice to see the things that are being added there. Say, you pointed out to me something really cool with the quest names.
Oh, I'll get to that in a moment.
Okay.
There's just one other thing I wanted to mention. I know a lot of people, myself included, things like running the dead ends, encountering all those various civilizations in the Thule. It was something that was emotionally really rough, especially seeing the problems that they have and comparing those to and thinking about a lot of the problems that exist in our world. I've mentioned this to a lot of Duty Finder groups, but the end segment of the Corellian section with the bit at the missile base was a scene that I saw in my nightmares several times when I was a kid. So that was a bit of a punch running into it as part of Duty Roulette. And it's really nice kind of revisiting this and expanding, sort of saying, okay, we've got these problems. Let's start taking it in a more hopeful direction about how things could go. It's something where I've actually started to feel the tears coming, not from sadness, but just from relief at hey, this is something that feels a little bit hopeful, which really nice thing to have a dose of. Indeed. The quests themselves, it's gathering quest stuff. There's nothing super special there. It's always fun to see how the specific text changes depending on which job you come as. For instance, a quest where they're looking to improve the coffee served at the last dregs, where they may be asking you to retrieve Salt. A fun fact: salt does actually help reduce bitterness in coffee. I do know someone who accidentally added soy sauce to his coffee once, realized afterwards, decided to try it anyway, and said it was way less horrible than he thought it would be.
It probably had a nice umami flavor to it as well.
Yeah, and also like the salt helps tame the bitterness. So lots of fun little details there for anyone who's ever worked in food service.
Indeed. I'm really enjoying the quests.
And yes, the mainline quests, the ones that actually progress the various rank ups, I noticed right away, given how much I read them as a kid. So far, it seems, well, as a teenager, I guess. So far, it does seem like all the different quest names are references to different books in the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy trilogy, which they steadfastly insist is a trilogy, even though it's 6 books.
Just don't forget to bring a towel.
The first one is quest is, of course, the cafe at the end of the universe, referring to the restaurant at the end of the universe. And the second one is longing so for all the fish. Nice little rearrangement of so long and thanks for all the fish. So I'm looking forward to seeing how they work the other ones in there in a way that's going to incorporate all of these different races that you find in the Thule.
No, I will say, let's leave the little bit of information we get regarding the Grebuloffs to them for them to actually experience for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah, it's and again, like seeing these ones, one of the things I actually liked about that is when they do join the Thule, when they do join Elysian and the place reconfigures to arrange them. Again, we got to see parts of their world we'd seen in the Dead Ends, but revitalized and full of life and light and hope.
Yep, so there's really cool things that we can look forward to as this whole quest line progresses. And it's really, there's a lot of room to expand that area.
Yeah. It makes me think that this was something they may have intended all along to show all the stuff of the despair that it would sink into and then the hope that it could eventually become. In which case, way to do the 1-2 punch to our feelings, guys. I continue to be impressed.
My only complaint is I wish they had done this for the crafters and not the gatherers.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what we'll get for the crafters. The main speculation I hear is either the Garleans or the Loporits.
I mean, the Garleans do make sense as well, just for the fact that we want to help them rebuild a little bit. So, having crafters be able to actually, construct things. I mean, that does make sense.
It's also possible that they might do something more akin to Domain Restoration with that. Or they might do both or integrate them in some way.
Yep, we'll have to see what comes.
At the moment, we don't have any details about what their plans are. But, yeah, thinking about, again, comparing to Shadowbringers, the Gathering ones, most of the time you already have all your Gatherers at 90, or at least like people who haven't played. Like they're nice for people who are relatively new to catch up, but for the Gathering ones, I've always felt like it's less about getting those Gatherer levels and more about the story that comes along with it.
Yeah.
Like the Gathering XP is a nice bonus, but the impression I got, and I would love to see some actual data about who's doing them and how many levels they get and how many are going at 90. But the impression I've always had is that it's there a bit more for the story than for the XP. That the XP is kind of a nice little bonus.
Yep. I mean, because for me, Gatherers are always the first thing that I get to 90, aside from my main quest.
There aren't as many of them. They're easy to do.
And most people's retainers are sent out as Gatherers as well. So it's really nice to be able to have those at max level to be able to get the most out of them as early as possible when a new expansion drops.
So yeah, if you have any interest whatsoever in Gathering, there's usually a fairly strong drive to go ahead and just get those up reasonably quickly. Yep. And it's not until like a couple patches after that the Gathering quests show up. So again, nice benefit for those who aren't nearly as interested in it or who are new and catching up. But it does seem like it ends up being more of an opportunity for them to start telling interesting stories and really focus on those story aspects. I remember with Shadowbringers, a thing where you were looking at the Qatari history and getting to actually propose your preferred version of how the history would go. That was a really fun element.
That was fun. I will give that. But the thing is, once it was done with the story, I didn't go back because there's no need for it. I got everything that I needed from the getting the items, and then there's no need for it. I'm continuing to go back to do all the Arca Soldier ones because I'm leveling up a number of other jobs.
Yeah.
So, and then whenever the crafting one comes out, there's a good chance I'll be still working on leveling some of my crafters up. So I'll probably continue to run that until I have leveled up all of my
crafting tends to require a bit more expenditure of resources. So usually I've usually had them leveled pretty quickly, but I know others who will go at a gentler pace or focus on one or two that they really care about. So it's kind of in an in-between state, I feel like, as compared to between the Gatherer and the Battle ones.
But that's why I really like the crafting ones, or when we were able to get crafting tribe quests, mainly because it did not require a huge expenditure at that point. You were given the things you needed to complete the quest without having to spend a ton of money. I mean, if you look at the Studium quest right now, there's a decent expenditure of money that has to go into those. Same with the Crystarium quests back in Shadowbringers.
Yes, the Crystalline Mean quests.
Yeah, exactly.
The Facet quest is what they were called, right?
Yeah, well, you know what I was talking about.
Yes. I'm just being particular about naming. But yeah.
You're not wrong, so.
Yeah. Given that, again, this was set in the Ultima Thule, where you already have the idea of philosophical outlook and feelings and all that.
And then that
molding
song.
Yeah. And Elysian does, as usual, Elysian has like a slightly remixed version of it that I found myself just parking there and then like having that run in the background while I was doing work this last week.
Oh no, it is a very nice instrumental rendition of that song. But I mean, when you're going through doing everything for the quests themselves, I mean, you're hearing that just playing in the background.
Yeah. One interesting difference as compared with the Pixie ones is that some of the quests actually do send you into Elysian to gather materials from it as well. So it's not, with the Pixie one, the Realm of Dreams was more a place that you visited for the rank up quests and maybe to get some fun pictures of yourself in a gingerbread house. But this is one where the daily quests are regularly having you interact with it. So I do wonder if that's going to create a little bit more of a sense of connection to it.
Hopefully, and it's fun. I like how it's changing and expanding so far. I'll probably be hitting the next set of quests probably Monday. I think is when I'm going to be due. I didn't get the morning one when the patch was released. I wasn't quite that smart, but so I'm like a day
there's
behind.
No rush.
I must do all the things.
Oh, no, and Island Sanctuary with its flower-smelling champions.
I'm the best flower smeller.
I
am still going to my island every day.
Yeah, enjoy the gentle pace. The story is really great. Again, some of the constant sniping between N7000 and Jamming Way. I feel like I might get a little tired of at some point.
Oh come on, it's cute.
They have been kind of creative in how they're insulting each other, so...
I do like N7000's new ears. You'll see what we mean when you go through the quests.
Yeah.
All right, and then the last bit of stuff that we got in patch 6.25 were our variant and Criterion Dungeons. Which the Criterion Dungeon got a very, very unfortunate... name shortening. Another Sildon Subterrane.
Oh no! They had to know.
Well, the community is using it, so.
Okay, so yeah, I feel like that was on purpose then. Probably someone was like, "Hey, they're gonna call it that," and then someone else was like, "Yeah, and that's funny."
Yeah, Koji.
I mean. Given some of the texts I saw on other stuff, I'm pretty sure they feel a lot more free with the dirty jokes as of late. Anyways, so the variant dungeon, the story version, as advertised, I ran my first one solo. Took about half an hour or so, which is what I would expect for something like a trust dungeon or the like. So, not unreasonable. Really fun to have a lot of that exploration aspect to it. You're adventuring with Nanamo, who is in fine form as she's descending down into the depths of a underground dungeon type thing. She's so adorable. Like, she's trying her best, and she's also very scared of what's happening there. She's not an adventurer, but you could tell that she would have loved to be if things had worked out differently.
Yeah, the reasoning that she's down there is actually quite interesting as well. I'm really enjoying the story components of this as well. It's really kind of a tearjerker if you think about it as well. And so far, I've only run it once, but I do like that there are multiple ways that you can go. At least in I know in all of the dungeons have that, but I think it's more simplified in the first version. Those are just the 3 doors, and then there's even more when you expand it.
So it's not. So what it is I believe the Criterion ones actually just have a single path. What it is that there's 3 doors to start with that will send you down one of 3 routes, but then there's various other decisions that you need to make. For instance, on one of the routes, you need to decide whether you're going to pray to a statue of Nald or to a statue of Thal. There's a revisit of the Karn Scales puzzle, which it's a lot less clear about how to solve it and requires you to put together some of your knowledge about Beladia, Ulda, and Silde if you want to work out that pathway.
Okay.
So for the people who love the lore, this one's of course really focused on Ulda, Thanalan, and all the Thorn Dynasty, all the various things there. And if you've got all those tidbits thrown around, you're going to have lots of fun bits that will ask you to recall some of those details and put them together to make your way through different routes. There are 12 different routes in the variant dungeon, I believe.
Okay.
I know there are guides already, of course. I have resolved to not look at any one of those and just see what I happen to find. I did work out the scale puzzle with the lore knowledge there and found a note with clues to one of the other routes there. So for people who like puzzle solving and exploration, there's a lot of fun stuff there.
It's Final Fantasy XIV's Puzzles and Dungeons.
Good times. The battle system also seems reasonably well tuned. While of course the 4-player matching is available if you do want to go solo or in smaller groups. Really good if you want to do it, say, with just a friend or something like that. It does supply you with variant actions to cover a lot of those abilities that you might be missing. When I went as a tank, I went ahead and grabbed a cure spell and one that would put a dot on all the enemies around me.
Yep, and when I went in, I grabbed the heal and the shield. You can also grab a raise, or you can get a Voke.
Yeah, the Voke is also AoE and also provides a temporary stun and enmity generation for a bit. So if you are doing something in a small group or even a larger group without a tank, you can still have someone take on the tank role.
Yep.
The actions can be switched freely during through the dungeon as long as you're not in combat as well. So if something's not working or if you just decide you want to change it up a bit, lots of options for that. Yeah.
Though that is not the case with the Criterion dungeon. You have to pick your actions before going in, form your party, and then you can enter.
Yeah, so the variant one is obviously the very story-focused one, all the different routes that you could take. One other thing I'll mention is that there is a sub-boss that you encounter that I've been on through it 3 times, so I've encountered on a couple different routes. And the sub-boss itself, it has the same mechanics no matter what, but stuff changes based on the arena you encounter it in.
Okay.
Like, because it shows up on all 3 of the routes. It's a Hecatotionaire that stumbles into things. But depending on which route you're on, you encounter it in a different arena, and so there's different stuff going on that adds to the mechanics as a direct result of that. So, again, for people who really love that kind of, like, realistic world feel of like, okay, we have this thing. It doesn't change what it is because of where it is. It's still the same monster throughout. It's kind of this nice touch that makes it feel more real world consistent and makes it feel more like, okay, yeah, this is a thing. It doesn't take you out of it. The Criterion Dungeons, of course, are the harder one. Minimum eye level 610 to go in there. And I know people who have been asking for extreme and savage experiences, but with dungeons instead of raids, and I have heard nothing but good things from them about it so far.
I can finally go in there. Woo! I just hit eye level 610.
I'm at 609, but I also tend to hoard my tomestones because I can't decide what to buy. So, I mean, ostensibly, I could be a lot higher there.
Did you get your Manderville weapon yet?
I did get my Manderville weapon.
Okay, because, yeah, I have all of the regular raid gear, and then
got it.
My one old ring, and then my weapon, and that has me right at 610.
So my old ring is a radiance ring and not an augmented radiance ring. So
if you augment it,
that
you'll
would
be
probably
fine.
do it.
That'll get you up there then, because you're running everything else as purgatory.
Yeah.
Yep. So once you upgrade your ring, you'll be able to enter. Giggity.
The cap on it is I-635, so this is something that they clearly intend to be challenging content for a while yet. Lots of fun rewards from it. We've already, I've seen there's emotes. Nanamo actually gets the cutest sparkly eyed emote and surprised at the various things she encounters down there, and that's one you're able to pick up for yourself. God, she's such an adorable little potato that we must protect.
No, I'm so far. My one run through there has been fun. I do plan on running it all the way and trying getting all 12 different endings. I believe there is some rewards for that.
Yes, there is in fact a mount, which is one of the bosses.
Mm-hmm.
Again, for those who love lore, as you clear the different routes, there's also a survey record that fills in chapters of a story. For Nanamo fans, you're going to get a lot of fun backstory about her, her family, a lot of stuff about the history of Ulda and Silde in general. We've had the Thorn Dynasty mentioned before, most frequently in the Little Ladies Days events, and that fills in a little bit more of their connection and how you had the different dynasties and why this dynasty of here kind of came in at a certain point during that. So lots of stuff taking some of these bits we'd had dribbled out to us and really bringing together, exploring them, uniting them, and using them to tell a new story in the process.
So overall, I'm actually really impressed with this 0.05 patch. It's one of the better ones.
Normally you don't get this much good story stuff in a 0.5 patch.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, props to the story writers, props to all of the developers. I mean, you guys are just doing an amazing job. My only concern is, based off of, the knowledge that we have about when FanFest is coming out, and then the long delay that we're probably going to inevitably have between patch 6.5 and 7.0, unless maybe they give us a 6.6. We'll have to see.
Maybe.
We'll have to see. But that's something for us to worry about in the future. For now,
I'll also mention that although it wasn't nearly as much of the content, they did continue to add some really cute furnishings from the design contest. All of those different lofts include a tatami loft. So all of you weebs, you can go ahead and make your split level houses. As well as pretty much all the furniture from the old Charlayan Inn/Storm Room. Which I have to say, I actually kind of like that sink.
Now, since my segue was so rudely interrupted, that's going to go ahead and do it for this episode, guys. If you liked what you heard, please make sure to like, subscribe, or follow us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or whatever your preferred podcatcher is. And if possible, leave us a rating or review. It helps other people to find our show and lets us know how we're doing. If you really dig the show, please consider subscribing here at twitch.tv/PhoenixDownRadio, where you'll get access to a number of subscriber-only emotes and badges. Or you can support us out on Patreon, like our benevolent overlord Aurori Fenrir, our shadowy foreign investor Tibian Salts, or our secret of Nevermore Ravenheart by visiting patreon.com/PhoenixDownRadio. All proceeds go towards growing the show, cover things like hosting costs, allow us to improve and upgrade our equipment, as well as do some fun things like contests and giveaways. But any kind of support, whether it's emails, likes, tweets, retweets, subs, follows, donations, any of that, all greatly appreciated because we just love interacting with you guys and the rest of the community. And if you want to check out our backlog of episodes, go out to our website, www.phoenixdownradio.com. If you have questions, comments, suggestions, or just want to say hi, you can email us podcast@phoenixdownradio.com, or you can hit us up on Twitter @PHXDNRadio. Seyrr, any shout outs?
Yes, I actually made notes about it this time around because
I know you
always
did.
Yes. So yes, several shout outs. First off, I want to shout out Spender's raid group, Bardaholics Anonymous, who very kindly welcomed me to join them for some runs on Barbaricia X, and are going to be helping me out with prepping me as an alternate for days when some of their raiders can't make it.
Cool.
So I mean, like, this is about the speed I like for raiding. I'm willing to learn the stuff and show up every so often, but I don't think I could do it every week, all the kind of thing. And nice folks, really welcoming, very patient with my missteps, very quick to praise when I did something clever or like managed to work my way through. There were a couple points where I had missteps through it and I reacted well, and they were very quick to observe that and point that out. So nice folks, really like them. I got an axe out of it. Thank you so much for that. I also want to shout out the nice Dragoon from my second variant run, who I'm going to start writing these things down when it happens, just to, because I want to shout them out by name. My second variant dungeon run, I did as a matched party with random folks. As soon as we got in, they asked if, hey, can we let me handle this bit because I'm trying to get a particular route. And everyone seemed fine with that. They led the way. They were really good about not like overly spoiling things and talking a bit back and forth. I was gushing about some stuff that was happening, and they really engaged with me on that. And it made the whole experience a lot more fun. Working out what was going on with the puzzle on that one, again, really brought into the feeling of, oh, hey, because we know all this lore, we get to really find these hidden things in it. So, and they were also really encouraging as I was working at mechanics on some of those bosses, some of which had some pretty cool and interesting mechanics going on with them.
Yeah.
So big shout out to that person for making the run just a really fun, enjoyable thing and helping encourage me to keep going with it. Thank you so much for that. It was a really fun time. A shout out to my friend Sophia for providing late night anime distractions this last week when I had to stay up working on some data processing stuff for work.
Nice.
And a shout out to my friend Chris on, I believe, Exodus server, both for the Renacita gear he's crafting me, as well as the tea and cookies that he invited me over for the other day. Again, nice break from the routine. It's nice to have some friends in real life who I can talk about games and stuff as well. So big shout out to you as well, Chris. For those of you who aren't yet, you can follow me on Twitter at FF14Seyrr. That's FFXIV where I post from time to time, depending on the impulse that takes me, frequently resharing Moose's shit posts because they're good fun. You can also find me on the Phoenix Down Radio Discord. I'm always happy to chat with folks. I welcome the distraction from, oh my god, we have so much more in this data processing project. Not a lot of the librarians are as comfortable with a lot of the computer database systems, and they know I am, so they are giving me a lot to work with.
Lucky you.
I mean, honestly, it's kind of fun. I'm getting to use some of the math skills I don't get to use nearly as often, but also I have to ask Sophia for distractions because I'm up at 3 a.m. still plotting through some data processing.
You mean your maths skills?
Yes, maths.
Chili will appreciate that.
Yeah, no, my real analysis teacher back in college, she was British, and God, I loved it whenever she was talking about like the X, Y, and Z variable.
Nice.
Oh, there's something really fun about saying Z.
Yeah.
Anyways, how about you, Klaus? How's those shout outs this week?
Well, I need to shout out Peter and Quentin over at Maelstrom Radio. They had me on last week. Go check out that podcast. I believe they called it Straight Man, Thirsty Man. You'll find out why when you go watch or listen. It was a good time. I had fun. We did some drinking. Always a positive. You know, kind of need that sometimes with those guys. But hey, it was all good.
Yeah,
I mean,
they're great folks. I'll
go ahead.
I'll also throw in for since we mentioned before, I do join Quentin on Sunday mornings at Maelstrom Radio for a Stardew Valley stream, and that's also a really delightful time.
Yep. So go check them out. A couple of great podcasters, streamers, and just cool people. So always awesome, as well as they have an amazing producer, Susan. So shout out to all of them. So thank you so much for having me on there. Shout out to Seyrr for making me spend money on ukiyo-e art.
You're supporting traditional Japanese crafts. It's a good cause.
No, it is, you know, and also getting a really nice artwork for my house, you know, to expand that out. I had others now, I'm trying to remember what they are. I need to write these things down too as I'm thinking of them.
That's why I wrote it down.
I get it. Shout outs to everybody who has donated so far to our Extra Life campaign. We are almost halfway to our $1,500 goal. We had a generous donation given out today that pushed us at $700. So
damn.
I'm very happy for everybody who has been helping us there. Like I said, if you have a few dollars that you can donate to an amazing cause, go check out our Extra Life campaign, and let me just link it here. And like I said, we really appreciate, you know, you being able to help kids with hospital bills and things like that. So tune in 2 weeks to see how all of that goes. I still have to get that whole stretch goal thing from last year taken care of yet. Maybe I'll do it live on the stream this year. Look forward to that. Plus the 30-inch pizza as well.
That's a lot of pizza.
Yep. You can find me out on Twitter at PHXDN_KLAUSS, as well as on the Discord. Like I said, we're really trying to expand the things that we talk about on Discord. We're getting a fan fest room together for people to talk about, you know, their plans for that. We have the lore channels. We have just some spoiler chats if you want to talk about, you know, storyline of new stuff going on and not have to worry about, you know, whether you feel you need to be spoiled or not. It's a nice safe place to talk about these things that you really want to talk about. And I think we just have a really chill community. So stop by, take a look. And if you're listening to this on the podcast later on, I do urge you just to stop by sometime live or jump into the Discord, see what we're all about, and have some fun. So, for my co-host, Seyrr Tomono, I am Klauss Nightbringer, wishing everybody a wonderful evening. Thank you so much for joining us again, and we will see you in 2 weeks for Extra Life. Take care.
Phoenix Down Radio is a production of PhoenixDownRadio.com and Illusion Productions. Final Fantasy XIV and Eorzea are trademarks of Square Enix. In-game content for Phoenix Down Radio is the copyright of Square Enix. Opening music for Phoenix Down Radio is provided by Guilty Gear Rock You. Check out the Metal Chocobo theme cover and many other music videos at youtube.com/Guilty Gear Rock You. Closing music for this episode is provided by Guitar Wanker 90. Please check out their full version of Matoya's Cave and other rock video game covers at youtube.com/Guitar Wanker 90. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of Phoenix Down Radio and its hosts and do not reflect the views of Square Enix.